Started. Thanks everybody for joining. We got a pretty good quorum at this point, and I'm sure more people will hop in as we get going. Um, by way of introduction, I'm Aaron Moog. I am the head of community for Detections AI. Thanks everybody for hopping on. I know we know a bunch of you, a lot of friends and family on the call, but for those of you who don't, welcome. This is our first set of these that we're doing since we launched. If you Just a couple of housekeeping things. Obviously, this is a webinar format, so everybody's kind of auto muted, so you don't have to worry about that. But if you have questions, please put them in chat. There's also in kind of the middle of the Zoom screen, there's a little QA with a question mark. If you want to add anonymous questions or kind of parking lot it for after, we will try to leave 10 to 15 minutes at the end for questions. Um, Joe, the invite code is just webinar, and you can go ahead and use that. I will try to answer questions as Tim's talking also in chat. But if you just want to ask a technical question or something like that, just put it in Q&A and we'll park it. So other than that, we're going to pass it over to Tim. Tim's going to get through some content and then do, I think, a pretty awesome demo of using AI on our platform to create detections, the different language supports, how to combine intel. It's a pretty great way to learn how what we're up to. If anybody has any questions during the talk, please put it in chat. I will do my best to respond. So thanks so much. Yes, recordings will be shared. We're going to put on YouTube probably maybe yet today, but by for sure by tomorrow. So we'll be able to, you guys will be able to just YouTube link it and watch it. Awesome. Thanks, Tim. Go for it, man. Appreciate it.
Sweet. Let's get into it. Yeah, little introduction for myself. My name is Tim Peck. I'm out in Colorado. A little more chilly here. I've been in the cybersecurity space for about 12 years. Last 5 or so, focused more on detection engineering and threat research. Yeah, love every bit about it. I think during my course as a threat researcher, produced over 400 detections manually. So you can kind of see where my excitement is with a platform like this, especially one that's augmented with AI and saves us an absolute ton of time. So cool. So we got a pretty exciting demo for you later. It's gonna end with some really cool like correlated intel to produce detections. We've got some slides and just an overview of the platform. I know some of you are probably a bit more seasoned than others, and some of you are probably hearing about this for the first time. So kind of trying to cater to everybody here. Sweet. All right. So with every platform, there's a problem that needs to be solved in the industry, right? And we got some key items here that are contributing to this problem. In this hypothetical situation, I'm sure if you're in the detection engineering biz or research space, this is something you can absolutely relate to, right? Like a new CVE dropped, you're kind of already underwater from the last 2 or 3 that dropped that month. So, why is this such an impact to the industry? Why is this such a big deal? So one of the main reasons, and probably the biggest in my opinion, is the duplication of effort. So when a CVE drops, all the impacted organizations, what are they doing? The detection engineers, the researchers, the vulnerability researchers, they're all doing the same thing all at once, which is a massive waste of time when you think about it. So whether you're a vendor, whether you're a vendor trying to provide coverage, or you're, a detection engineer working for, a company that's impacted by this vulnerability, you're heads down working on this, so along with everybody else. So that's one key aspect we're trying to solve here, right? Trying to get more people to work together versus everybody individual in their silos doing the same research, doing the same thing. The other one is the threat intel overload. Again, going back to like a critical CVE, the intel that everybody's pulling from is pretty much coming from the same space, but you may have, the CVE report itself, which may or may not contain relevant, if you've seen CVE reports, right, they may or may not contain relevant information to like actual detection building. Just, hey, there's a vulnerability here, and then you might have to rely on some third-party research, or maybe there's a link on GitHub that has some actual attack data. So a lot of this is spread out in a way that makes it really inconvenient for detection engineering. And that kind of leads us also into decentralized repository. Things are fragmented. So a lot of what we're trying to do is through community efforts, trying to solve all these problems. So fancy graphics, the solution. So detections AI, first and foremost, it's an online community of detection engineers, cybersecurity professionals working together for the same goal, augmented through AI. So when we're working together, when all of our expertise is pooled under one umbrella, there's so much more we can do, right? Versus siloing ourselves, working alone, and trying to build the best detections we can. I was a victim of this for years, so I can absolutely relate. Collaboration in the industry exists, but right now it could be better. Actionable threat intel. So this is something that's huge, because I thoroughly believe that in order to build really good detections, you have to start with really good threat intel. The intel has to be pertinent to actual detection building. Otherwise, it's just, going to be another, you could call it, like we used to call them like Me Too articles, right? Hey, there's a CVE that dropped. Watch out. Not much more interesting than that. So the intel has to be actionable. And so intel, especially on the website, as you'll see in the demo, is very catered towards detection engineering. A single source for detection. So we want to make detections AI the number one go-to for intel and detections. Both of those things all wrapped in a community that's powered by AI. So why AI? Besides the fact that everybody is using AI, it's a little bit more, um, man, impactful than that. I mean, you think about the things that AI does really, really well is transforming a ton amount of raw data intelligence from multiple sources into something that is easy to ingest. The number one example I think of is kind of the go-to AI implementation that pretty much everybody on the planet is using, like the summarize this, right? AI is really good at that. So you can kind of see why that's kind of everybody's go-to, because, hey, let's take some data and make sense of it. And you think about like what a detection is, it's kind of that. You're taking raw intel or a threat advisory, right? And you're taking all the good bits out of there, and then you're constructing something that's a bit more advanced than a summary, right? But it's something that can summarize and I guess has an impact for what you're working on, which is a detection, right? Something that can catch a threat. That's the end goal. So, the main key points here, right? Reduces analyst toil, increases efficiency, right? That's just speed. Even before joining the team here, I used to use AI purely for just saving time. It's just really great at that. Whether you need to generate a piece of code or summarize something, it's just good at kind of chopping off some of those time blocks for the sake of saving time. So reduces analyst toil, increases efficiency. As number one, improve detection fidelity, which rich context. This is something that kind of struck me with how amazing AI is with not only taking data from a report or raw logs and then building a detection off of that. It's also going to provide its own training context into those detections. An example could be, we're all, some of us, maybe not all of us, but a lot of us are really good detection engineers. We've been in the cybersecurity space, but like our Windows internal knowledge or Linux internals knowledge might be lacking. So AI can not only take the data from all those reports, but also mix in some really good context. Like, for instance, like right now in the threat landscape, when it comes to phishing emails, LNK files, executed through like some zip file or something is huge, right? It's a good way to, using double extensions, get people to click on that .pdf.exe, kick off some commands that, do whatever the attacker's goal are at that point. But like, what are the parent-child process relationships when somebody clicks on an LNK file? Off the top of a lot of our heads, we may not know. And this is context that AI can bring to the table to improve detections. And it could also help reduce false positives, increase true positives, which is what we want to see. So, so scales threat intelligence across the organization. This is where AI is good at filling in knowledge gaps. If you, for instance, if you're a Windows shop and you've got like some, power user domain admins, they know what they're doing. You've got your PowerShell scripts all automated in the domain doing their thing, Windows is locked down, but then a critical CVE drops for those a couple random Linux servers you have sitting in the corner that you may have forgotten about. Building detections for something like that, where your knowledge on or your team's knowledge into Linux might be lacking, it could kind of help fill some of those gaps to build quality detections. Obviously at an efficient and context rich speed. Cool. So that all comes together. So the next few slides, you'll have to forgive me. My voice is kind of starting to go. I'm kind of recovering from a cold. So if I sound weird, that's why. How it all comes together. So the next few slides, we're going to kind of talk about the platform at a really high level. We'll kind of breeze through them. That way we have more time to dig into the demos. So the detections discovery section, this is huge. This is where all of our detections live. You might see some familiar names over there. Yeah, we try to make it as easy as possible to search for what you're looking for. And I'll show you this in the demo too, like how to drill down into specific languages and search filters and things like that. But yeah, we offer live searching filters, like the bullet points there, CVE sorting, MITRE ATT&CK, product and rule language. And that's huge because a lot of people are going to come in with the goal of a specific language. So we want to make it as easy as possible for you. Awesome. So groups, right? So we're community first, right? So groups allows teams to work together, to collaborate, publish detections under their own umbrella. And as we get into in the demo, you'll see we have different settings for groups or different types of groups that can cater to individual needs. All right. And kind of circling back to that whole intel. So we try to maintain a really, really good threat intel collection for the sake of detection building. All of the intel featured in the community tab. We'll kind of go over the difference between community and personal later on. But all the intel in the community section has been vetted by us personally to make sure that it does produce quality and actionable detections. And lastly is the detections library. The library, you can kind of see it highlighted down here, bottom left. That's your own personal library of detections, whether you've opted to share them to a group or the community itself. They'll all remain there. You can use them to reference, download them. But yeah, there's lots of options here. We try to make it as easy as possible. If you want to create a detection from this area, you can just upload them straight from files. There's GitHub account sync. It's not something we're going to be going over in this demo. If you have any questions later on, feel free to contact us. We'll provide our contact and socials later on. Definitely feel free to hit us up with some of these more advanced features. All right, let's get into the demos. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pivot over here. Excuse me one second, let me grab a drink. So just kind of walk you through the platform at first. Then we'll start building some detections, get more and more advanced as we go. Once you're registered on the website, this becomes your home screen. You can see I have activity feed highlighted here. Start by searching. We have a list of featured detections here. These are more prominent detections from key members of the detections.ai community. The right side features some more threat intel. These are handpicked by our team outside of the intel collection that definitely mark prominence. I'm sure this first one here, sales loft drift, is kind of in everybody's brain right now. So not only are these notable, but they're also, I guess, reports that produce really, really good detections at the same time. So yeah, you can scroll down, check them out. Let's click on one of these. We'll kind of show you what these reports look like. So this one from Google Cloud, we added a week or so ago on UNC 6395, sales loft drift. This is a really good report from Google that contained a lot of actionable data, high impact to the industry, produces great detections. So we start off, we got a nice summary here, an executive summary. You can copy this out if you need to add it to your own internal pipelines or reporting. A rather new feature we added is the threat intel quality scoring. Most of, or if not all of the intel in the intel collection is going to have really good scores. Like I said, we're vet these, so they're good. But when we get into personal intel, you can kind of like gauge the quality of the report you're trying to add. So yeah, and this is all done automatically when they're added. So you can take a look at these individual scores and why these were given. If you scroll down a little bit, each of the community detections listed under the report are detections that were produced using this report as a direct source. So we got 4 of them here, broken up by community and personal, if this account that I'm using had any that we listed underneath here as well. Sweet, let's jump down. So we're gonna go over to this discovery detections. So like I said earlier, this is where all of the detections for the platform live. And as you can see, we've got just a few of them here, more than 10,000. They're constantly rolling in, a lot of contributors to the platform. We got one 3 minutes ago, as you can see here, 12 minutes, 2 hours. So one powerful thing you can do is any action you take, whether it's apply a filter or search, it's all done live. So there's no like apply button or anything like that you need to worry about. So for instance, if you wanted to search through KQL rules, if we highlight that, the right side's auto-populated with just KQL. You can see by the language here. So at this point, if you're looking for a particular CVE, you could drop it right in search and you'll get nothing but the KQL rules related to that CVE that you're searching for. So you can compound these. So for instance, if you want to look for KQL rules produced in the last week, just tick that 7 days box. And obviously this didn't change much because it's by default sorted by its updated time. So we still got quite a few of them. So let's say you've got a favorite contributor, Stephen Lim. He contributes quite a bit to the platform. KQL Wizard, if you follow him on socials, you've probably heard of him. So just even 8 hours ago, we got a brand new detection for CVE 2025 49844. So lots of contributions over the last 7 days. So say this is like a view that you would come back to regularly. If you're an avid follower of Stephen Lim, you want to look at his latest detections on the platform. One awesome thing you can do is save this filter. If you click this save button, you can give it a name. I don't know why it's not letting me type. You can see I've done this before. So give it a name, hit save. And what this does is it pops it right here under saved filters. And when you click this caret, you can see all of the filters that you have saved. So say that was a mistake. Wanted to delete it, come in here, hit manage. You can go ahead and delete that and it'll remove itself from your save filters list. Sweet. So kind of circling into that whole community aspect, each contributor to the platform has a profile. So if we click on Stephen Lim's profile here, if they've added their socials, you can see them all here. You can follow this user. You can see some stats, detections, downloads, followers, how many that person's following. And then all of the rules highlighted below. And again, we get those same search and filter functionality, and you're going to see that everywhere on the site. So one thing you can also do here is sort these headers. So if you want to see Stephen Lim's most liked rule, detecting EDR freeze has 49 likes, pretty popular rule. One thing you can do is come in here, click on the rule, and this is the main rule page. So every rule you're looking at has this similar look, and we'll kind of go over this a little bit more once we create our own. So let's move down. Let's go into groups. This is really important too. So if you click on groups, you get a list of all the groups on the platform, so long as they're public. You can filter down on these by group type, your groups, community groups, etc. Again, you can take a look at headers, filter these down depending on the stats. If you click the create group button, anybody can create their own group, give it a name, give it a description. We've got 3 options here. Feel free to take a look at these. Kind of controls the flow of the group. If you set it to private, you can either have it unlisted or listed. So detections going in there will be either automatically hidden or just private to that group. And hit create group and you're off running. I'm not going to go too deep into groups on this particular webinar. They do get pretty advanced. Like for instance, like you can create invite codes that auto join people to groups. Feel free to ask us any questions you have on these and play around in here if you want to create your own. It's pretty intuitive. Sweet. Let's jump into, we'll skip a few here for the sake of logic. So library. Again, I was kind of showing you this in that slide briefly. All the detections you create are listed here. Again, same search and filters. One important thing to note is that the detections you create that you don't publish are listed here. You can see I have one detection that I created earlier. Status is set to draft, which means I created it, it's saved in the system, but it's not shared to any group or community. So this one's private to myself. So I just haven't done anything with it for whatever reason. So at this point, you could add a detection. You can upload one if you have your own personal library. Using the GitHub sync feature is really, really powerful. Again, a more advanced feature. We're not going to really cover too much on this particular call. Yeah, it just makes it easy to create some if that's what you wanted to do. And yeah. So Intel collection. Give me 1 second. Let me grab another drink. My throat dries out too much. Sweet. So threat intel, bread and butter of detections, right? Two sections here. We've got the community and personal. The difference is this is controlled basically by our team. Again, we vet these. They all score really, really high just because these are just really, really good sources for building detections. And we want to empower you to create the best. So anybody can come in here and create detections directly off of these. Again, same search functionality as we've seen elsewhere on the website. So let's find that Google Cloud one. Here we go. We're going to kind of feature this one because this was a really good one and very relevant. Sweet. So we've already talked about this, so no need to kind of rehash it out. But what I want to start doing now is let's go ahead and start creating some detections based off of a piece of threat intel. So two options, you could just hit that create detection, whatever your preferred language is, it's just going to kick off into that. That can be adjusted in your profile on the top right corner. Or you can hit this drop down and just select whatever language you prefer. So I'll just hit Sigma here. We're going to go with Sigma because it's pretty universally understood for detection engineering. So what it does is it loads that right into this chat where now, if you look over on the left side, we're in this create with AI. So it's loading that Google Intelligence as a chat piece and it's giving some direction. So analyze the report and suggest some opportunities. So first thing it's always going to do is provide a summary. And this summary is a little different than the one in the Intel collection. This one is more focused on individual indicators. So again, if you like this summary, feel free to copy it out of here, add it to reporting, send it in an email. And then keep scrolling down, you get exactly what you asked for. You're going to get some recommendations for detections based on that report. So first one here, we've got 7 total. It presents 2 at a time. So we've got some tabs to sort through. Salesforce data exfiltration, anomalous drift, app logins, hard-coded credential scan, malicious user agent strings, overly permissive app scopes, UNC 6395, Tor exit nodes, and that one again. Interesting. Oh, well. AI be AI, right? Okay, so let's pick one of these and we'll generate a detection. Let's see. I kind of like that first one. Let's just go with Salesforce data exfil and see what we get. So you click the generate button. It's going to pop you down a little bit further. AI is going to start crafting the rule. And one interesting thing you can do is you click this little caret, you can actually see the algorithm that it's using to build this rule. Obviously, it's a lot to read, but feel free to read it over for all you speed readers. So it shouldn't take too long. All right. As I say it. So we've got our Sigma rule. And it's kind of targeting that Salesforce product. So we're just basing this purely off of data found in that report, looking for those select statements, account related stuff. And it's the AI is really good at making this kind of easy to ingest. We have a good description. The detection has comments to kind of help with understanding a little bit better. Let me zoom box is kind of in the way for me here. All right. So we've got our rule. Let's go ahead and save it if we like it, which I do. So I'm going to hit save. And what this is going to do is it's going to take us to a new page. Let it do its thing. Okay, and this is a rule edit screen. So anytime you edit a rule, this is what you're presented with. So you've got the raw rule on the left, metadata extracted on the right. One thing I like to do just to make sure that the metadata is filled out right, especially with tagging and CVEs, is hit this autofill button. Just kind of habit I do. And you can see we parse out as much as possible. We've got all these tags, categories, platforms. One interesting thing a lot of you may not know is that you can edit this directly on either side and it will pair, there's parity between the two. So for instance, if you want to change the author name and I'll put my name in there, I could do that. And you can see over on the right side, we've got that listed there. So yeah, any of these fields, the description, the title. Okay, cool. So say you like this, what we'll do is we'll save it. You have the option to just save it to your library. This will save as a draft, as we saw in the detections library, or save and publish. And that will do both. That's going to save it in the library and drop it into the community bucket. So let's just go ahead and save it for now. All right. So we've got our rule. It's saved as a draft. It's been tagged. Let's kind of go down. So right here, you can just go ahead and copy it out if you need to add it to your own internal pipelines, what have you, if it's good. You can go back and edit it. That'll take us to the previous screen that we were just at. Share it. You can't share it until you publish it to a group or the community. So that's why it's kind of grayed out there. At this point, you can download it. And when you click that button, it's going to download the YAML file for this particular Sigma rule straight to your computer. I believe it saves as the file name id.yaml. This is a really awesome feature. So say Sigma's great, but you also need another language. You've got your mixing technologies. So what you can do is you can actually come in here to translate. It'll identify the source as Sigma. At this point, we can translate that to any of these supported languages, uses AI to do it. Click this translate detection button and you're good to go. And then you can copy it straight out of there. All right, so I'm just gonna go back to where I was. All right, back to the rule. And then yeah, delete it if you don't need it anymore. You have publish options. And that pretty much covers the rule page. Sweet. So we have a really nice TTP style rule. So say in addition to a good TTP rule, you're going to do some threat hunting and you need some good IOCs to go off of. So what we can do, let's just jump back to the create with AI. That rule's saved. It's not going anywhere. If you click this button, if you can see where my mouse is hovered over the top right, there's this chat history button. And this saves all of the history that you've done on this site in individual sessions. So what we can do is we can jump straight back into that session that we were just in. And this should look familiar. This is exactly where we were before we left, right before we saved it. So let's jump back into these detection recommendations. Let's try to find an IOC rule. Hopefully it gave us one. User agent strings might not be bad. Tor exit nodes, that's a good one. IP address is perfect. So let's go ahead and create a detection off of that one. So AI is going to do its thing. Building out the YAML. All right. Okay. Perfect. So now we have our IOC based rule, UNC 6395, Tor exit nodes that were identified in this campaign. So at this point, I'm not going to save it. We've been through all that already. But at this point, you could copy it out, build yourself a really great threat hunting rule. Translate would really come in handy here if you're sending it over to QRadar or anything like that, and do like a historical search for the last 30, 90 days. Sweet. Oh, yeah, obviously. One, this is a more recent feature that we added. So you gurus may have missed this one. So whenever you build more than one, we use a tab system here. So you can see I'm currently viewing this particular one here. What's awesome is you can switch back and forth between these for whatever reason. You hit save, and that'll take you out to into that edit screen. And you can just keep doing this. You generate another one, you'll get a third tab, a fourth tab, fifth tab. And then this session's saved. So if you jump out because you're editing another one, go back to create with AI and you can jump back into this saved session. Sweet. All right, let's do something a little crazier. So what I'd like to do is show you and highlight the differences between what happens with context when you start compounding data. And what I mean is this is really cool that we can take a threat report and build a whole bunch of very relevant detections off of. But what happens when we start enriching that report with raw log data or a supplementary source of data in addition to that original threat report? So one thing we can do here, let's go back to Intel collection. And I want to show you this before we jump into that. So personal, this is unique to you. So what I'm going to do, and I'm sure I'm going to bring back some nightmares to all of you. LDAP nightmare. I'm sure this caused many sleepless nights for a lot of you. Super, super high impact exploit. Came out late last year. POC came out soon after. So let's add this report here by Safe Breach. This is a really good write-up, by the way. That includes a lot of actionable data. Obviously, I won't be covering it here, but feel free to take a look if you haven't. So what I'd like to do is add a new piece of personal intel. And you can do that by hitting that new personal intel button. We're adding a URL, so we'll drop it straight in here. Give it a title, Safe Breach. Or you can copy the title out of the report, that works too. And click the add button. And what this is going to do is it's going to kick off some AI content generation. This is going to generate all those descriptions. It's going to score the intel. This usually happens pretty quick. So we'll give it a second to kind of do its thing here. All right. Awesome. So it scored a 7 out of 10. Not bad. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So right now, we've got our Intel threat report summary. No detections created for it yet. So this is brand new to the platform. So let's go ahead and create a detection from that again. So again, the intel is loaded. We're auto suggesting to create detection opportunities. AI is being super polite and helpful. All right, now we're getting our summary again. And some actionable threat data. Let's see what it comes up for the recommendations. All right, we'll just pick the first one here, create another Sigma rule, network artifacts. We'll let AI do its thing once again. All right. Suspicious DNS SRV queries. So pretty okay rule. Overall, it would probably catch the threat, maybe prone to false positives. This might have to be edited to make it unique to your environment. But I'm not going to save this, but kind of take a mental picture of it. So what I want to do is I want to kind of take this up to the next level. So we've got this DNS query rule. Yeah, it could probably catch the threat. Not a bad rule overall, but it's not super targeted, not great. So what I'd like to do, we're going to create a new one here. And I have loaded up, ready to go, a GitHub gist by Travis Green. He was kind enough to provide us with some logs that were generated as a direct result of the exploit, the LDAP nightmare exploit. So these are Windows event logs. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this URL. We don't need to create a whole report for this. Kind of want to highlight the differences for you. So in the Create with AI screen, what you can do is add Intel. Let's go to our personal Intel and let's add that safe breach article again. And you can see view Intel. We've got one listed here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop that GitHub gist right. Is it gist or gist? I'm probably causing a culture war right now. All right. So all I did was paste that in there, and you can see that my view Intel went to 2 now. So we've got that safe breach article. We've got that gist. I'm just going to say gist for consistency, ready to go. So when you do that, once you start populating this, you get some quick prompts that make things a little bit easier so you don't have to type. Help me create a detection from this report. That's exactly what we want. So at this stage, it's going to be a bit more targeted. We're not suggesting detection opportunities, so it's just going to jump straight into the detection. So let's see what we get here. And one thing to note too is that this is fully interactive. Half the time when I load 2 articles, sometimes it'll ask me which one, and I'll just reply with both. So if you do get questions, you can chat with the AI to kind of improve that detection. Like you can still chat with this if for whatever reason you want to kind of go through and change some of these things. But here we go. LSAS crash due to LDAP nightmare. So now what we've got is an incredibly targeted rule based on both of these reports. And you can see this is incredibly specific to Windows application logs, where we're looking for that particular error, exception code, faulting application name. So very, very good targeted rule targeted towards LDAP nightmare. So at this stage, we really like this rule. Let's go ahead and save this one. Again, we're going to generate the metadata. It's going to take us back to that edit screen. Perfect. All right. Feel free to edit it to your heart's content here. I'm just going to, out of habit, just click that autofill just to kind of improve the labels and tagging down at the bottom. And then I'm going to go ahead and save it. So now this is saved in my library. See, I really like it. I feel like the community could benefit from this. I'm going to go ahead and publish it at this point. So if you're kind of following along in the community, now you're going to see it in this Discover Detection section here. So you can see this account just created that brand new rule. And if you were to come back here to your library, if it loads, we can see that sales off drift that we created set in draft, status for that LSAS crash is set to published. So awesome. And also too, if you go to your Intel collection and personal, you can see that GIST was added there. Just Safe Breach now has that listed here as well under personal and community. So awesome. So I really like showing that. I really like showing how adding context and adding even more data can improve the quality of detections, especially when you're wrangling it in with AI. So yeah, that is the demo. Hopefully this answered a lot of your questions. As for the platform, we started really high level. We kind of circled it in and kind of got a little bit more advanced. Obviously, we didn't cover everything, and there's a lot more to the platform that I'm sure you'll even discover. But yeah, that's it. Hopefully, you learned something from this, and let's get into Q&A.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Tim. That was great. We had a we had a lot of questions coming in during the chat or during your talk that I was doing my best to answer. Hopefully, it's hard sometimes when you're writing out the answers. But we do have a few more that we hadn't got a chance to get to. So I'm going to kind of go through those as I'm talking. If anybody has extra questions, it's a webinar Zoom app, so it's not like super easy to like unmute people and get into it. So if you could just quick type it, I'll answer it. And then if we need a follow up, we can have a follow up. But a couple questions came up about API. And then Jacob just put in here about sort of the commercialization of the platform. So I just want to address that really quick. So, whenever you see something like this that has, a lot of features and the question is always sort of what's the catch, right? Like is this going to become paywalled? Is this going to be restricted in some way? And then also we have a concern of in our industry in general, when there's big open source or collaborative projects, vendors will sort of claim them and say, oh, I have integrations with, Sigma HQ or with this repo or whatever it is. And it's like, well, you didn't really do that work. So we are worried about vendors just coming along and sort of grabbing the entire shared library. We already have, tens of thousands of detections. Like that's not super fair to the people writing the content. And some of this content's coming from competitors of those vendors. So we're trying to figure that out. And obviously, if we just open up the API, it's especially easy to just hoover in all of our detections and call them there. So that's one concern. The second is obviously also we're, a venture capital funded company. We've got to have revenue at some point and grow. So our focus, our business model for anybody who's curious is basically the same as GitHub. We want everybody to be able to create projects on our site to share the content. If they want to open source it and share it with the world, they're more than welcome to. If you are a big company or a managed service provider or something like that, and you want to do shared libraries and integrations and AI librarians and SIM integrations and those types of things that companies care about, we will have and shortly have a commercial offering for companies that want to use their own detections and their own detections inside of their environments, not everybody's, right? Um, Now, if Stephen Lim writes a KQL detection in your Defender shop and you use it, that's why you wrote it, right? You didn't like that's the point. That being said, like we're still trying to figure out the total commercial model. Every click that Tim just made is free for everybody on this call, and in our hope and anticipation that this will be free for as long as we have the money to fund it. The big companies and the other vendors will help fund the commercial side of it. We're not worried about that. I don't know exactly where API is going to fall on that. Obviously, at some level, if I have a relationship with a company and they want to API some rules in, that's great. It's different when anybody can. So we'll figure that out. If you have ideas, if you have questions, there is a way on the site to come set up a demo time with me or just ask the question in support, and I could take you through the commercialization a little bit more. What are we thinking? Price points, things like that. But everything Tim just said is free for everybody here and will be, as far as I'm concerned, as long as we can make it free. Um, a couple other questions. Somebody asked about recording. I answered this earlier also for anybody who hasn't seen. We're starting a YouTube channel, so we'll be able to post these things. We're going to pick either all three of these webinars or whatever we think the best one is, and then add it to YouTube. We'll email everybody the link. You don't have to get it here. And so you guys all see that in your email from Detections AI probably tomorrow. We still have one more of these to go today with the Americas. If anybody wants to come to another one, we have another one in a couple hours. Couple more questions. One came in about Cortex. We are working on many, many new languages. For us, unfortunately, it's not that easy because we have to train the AI on every language we add. So, oh, I want Sentinel-1. It's like not particularly easy to do that and make the AI produce good detections. So we're working on it. I will say, for the most part, we've been pretty focused on the sim languages because that's what a lot of companies use. So, Splunk and Sigma and KQL, all the different types of languages that a lot of people use. We do have Yara support for the endpoint crews. Most of your endpoint tools support Yara if you're brave enough to run it across your endpoints. But we are working on some of the secondary languages. Sentinel-1, Suricata we're working on for any of you network folks, and some other ones. I don't have Palo Cortex on top of my list, but it's certainly on the list. We haven't had as much sort of relationship with Palo as maybe some of the other vendors. So we can definitely do that and add it to the list. Um, the AI can do conversions to key radar and logarithm, I believe, in Translate. We don't have native AI support for it yet. You would have to write it into Sigma and translate it. I don't know if we're going to do either of those as AI creation, just because it's like a tougher market. International market's slightly different here in the US, but we certainly know there's a lot of people who have those. But supporting them directly is tricky. We're a startup. We can only do so much. Um, and then the last question here about quality. So I'll address this in a broader sense. We have tried to create an environment of positive feedback in the sense of if you notice, like we don't have comments, we don't have downvoting. We're not trying to recreate Reddit with all the negativity and craziness, right? And we didn't certainly want to, sort of if people are sharing and other people aren't fans of those rules, we don't want to create a negative loop of like this sucks and boo, you're a bad author. So we're really focused on at a global level, sharing being the take it or leave it. If you love it, awesome. If you don't love it, change it and reshare it. Like that's what we do here, right? It's like code. If you don't like it, fork it, make a better version. We are adding comments and AI judgments to teams and groups. So if you want to start a group, you'll have comments here in the next couple of weeks for your structure. Could be your company, could be just a group of people you work with, and that's a little bad more controlled because obviously for the most part you know those people. Public comments are probably a little bit away. AI judgments of detections of going, hey, this is a 99 out of 100 versus a 2 out of 100. We have that technology. We just aren't exactly sure where to deploy it yet and how to not make people feel bad for sharing detections that maybe aren't the AI's cup of tea, but maybe are relevant to you. So we're working on that. We're also working on things like test beds, atomic testing. AI is getting decent at writing atomic test for some of these detections. Um, Not all companies have that capability, obviously, to do atomic testing, but enough do that we think it's interesting. Um, I agree completely. Like, this is all trust but verify. I 100% use the analogy of code. Like, if you and I are sitting here and we want to write a, Google Auth integration, we go to GitHub and get a project. You can't just trust that and put it in prod, right? You've got to test it, you've got to vet it, you've got to adjust it for your world, for your keys. I would never tell anybody to take these libraries and just run them in prod. Um, that being said, like detection engineering is a engineering discipline of experimentation, right? So trying things, tuning things, making them better. I know a lot of shops have development cycles where they can add a rule and that results that rule just come back to the D instead of firing up the SOC. So some of this is process too, of just figuring out the way you want to do detection engineering. If anybody has any ideas on ways to do testing that scale that are interesting, please hit me up. We're all ears. If you have a way you do it in your shop and you're like, hey, if this worked across all these rules, I would love it, hit me up, hit Tim up. We'll take a look at it. We are in the process of integrating a few open source projects that are pretty cool for like attack flow visualization and commentary and things like that. So we're all for it if you think guys think something is cool. So I know we're right kind of coming in for a landing here. I'm sure a lot of you have meetings to get to. I don't see any other questions. Awesome so much. Thank you everybody for joining. I'm always here. Tim's always here. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can use support on the site. I'm Aaron at Detections AI. He's Tim at Detections AI. We're as easy to find as anybody. We'd love to hear from all of you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day and learning about our community. And it is a community. We want to support you guys. So if somebody has ideas, like don't be shy. Half the stuff we built came from our board of advisors and our friends. So we love to get ideas. And Stephen Lim, who's on the call, gave us a lot of ideas. Thank you so much. Everybody enjoy the rest of your day. And we're here to help if you need any help. And thank you to
Hey,
them too for doing the
yeah.
demo.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, see you guys. Bye.
Take care.